welcome back. As I enjoy the peace this morning of the river, it's just got me thinking about off-grid life. Is it something that is going to be a trend towards the future for everyone to move off the grid into the peaceful life, or is this just a passing fad? Stay tuned. It's a frosty morning this morning. It's about -1. I don't know why Royce feels it necessary to go in for a little morning dip. There's my view. Very, very, very peaceful. I just startled a few ducks this morning in the bay. It's just so peaceful sitting here, just making me think about, the off-grid life and how enjoyable, being unplugged, unconnected has been for me over the years. Basically, my journey started spending a lot more time off-grid about 8 years ago. So it was about then that I started building the cabin, actually. That's why it got me really nostalgic thinking about building the cabin. November 8 years ago was when the whole structure went up. It wasn't completed at that time, and I remember, spending the winter in the cabin off and on with that kerosene heater and just basically off the floor in a few 2x4s, sort of laid on their side on my sleeping bag, -15 outside. Sometimes snow would kind of come in the the rafters and stuff like that through the soffit area. That was, of course, not finished at the time. So yeah, the journey started about 8 years ago to start building a really nice place out here, and now it's built and this is so enjoyable. But is the off-grid life something that you guys think will be, sustainable, something that people would do moving forward, given sort of what's going on in the world today? Now, certainly over the last 2 years, with the pandemic going on, a lot of people have moved rurally. Property, out in these rural areas and remote areas, you couldn't give it away. It was like it just sat and sat and sat for years, it seemed. A lot of people didn't really understand the need to move off grid or why you would do something like that. But those of us who, had the call to, spend more time in Mother Nature, we really understood that. So, prices were really low. And I think during the last 2 years, a lot of people kind of realized they don't want to be living in the rat race and, want to kind of live a more peaceful existence. And so that's when I noticed a lot of the properties in sort of remote rural areas getting sort of snapped up. Now prices have gone up, so it's not as attainable for some people to buy property. But made me think about, if more people would want to live off grid, or is this just a passing trend? I mean, you see on YouTube a lot of, channels talking about off-grid living and off-grid life, and became very, very popular for a period in time, and especially van lifing it too. I can't tell you how many, even just on my travels and driving around, how many those converted vans I've seen around. It seems like a lot of people are more interested in living a nomadic lifestyle. Now that lifestyle is not for everyone, right? I mean, it seems to be rather glamorized online. Even like cabin living and stuff like that can be, make it seem to the average person like it's a really easy life. But the fact of the matter is it comes with a lot of hard work. So, you're either building a place or you're buying one, you're renovating it. If you got a wood stove, you got to chop the wood for the wood stove in the winter, clear your trails. There's a lot of time and investment that goes into that and into equipment to maintain properties and things like that. And of course, how you get there and stuff like that. So I'm not really sure if this is going to be, a trendy thing moving forward. I feel that, I have this feeling that, people will want to move off grid, spend a lot of time there, and either try to make it more city-like, if you know what I mean, like try to get the really intense internet connections and, try to make it more like, like some people have cottages and they're not really a cottage. They're kind of like a house, it's got a pool, it's got all kinds of stuff like that. So I do worry that some, off-grid stuff won't be as, as basic as it has been, as sort of, down to earth as it has been. I feel like it may end up becoming, kind of like glamping has become to camping. So I'm not really sure that this, this off-grid trend will last. I feel that people will maybe, because of the pandemic, sort of move off-grid and, spend a lot of time off-grid, but then realize that there's a lot of work involved, and then over time, move back into the city. Ducks are just crazy. There's so many of them around me right now. It's crazy. I don't know all the different kinds either. They're like pretty high up. I can't really tell. But yeah, so I also noticed too a lot more traffic in sort of traditionally more semi-remote and remote areas, just because a lot of people are kind of moving out here. which is great, but also means that there needs to be more infrastructure and things like that to support that. So lots of things to consider moving forward. On the other hand, it seems like a lot of people's jobs have become more remote. So maybe that's an argument against this off-grid life being more of a fad. If you can actually work off-grid and sort of live your peaceful, tranquil life, maybe more people will stay in the off-grid lifestyle, which would be really cool too. So I think definitely our society is getting more and more, especially the last 2 years, just even a bit more ramped up in terms of, you know, oh, sorry, just heard a bird over there. Our lifestyle has just become, I feel like, more, high speed over the last 2 years. I think there's probably two groups of people, one where things have slowed down and one where things have really sped up. I don't know about you guys, which camp you're in, but I'm in the life's really sped up camp. So it's sort of nice to be able to get away and have a nice relaxing place like here at the cabin. For me, this is not a trend or a fad. This is something that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, and hopefully more and more, to spend a lot more time here at the cabin and sort of discussing even building a bigger cabin, or home out here to eventually, when I'm finished working, to retire out here, because I think this is really, how you want to spend your life, just to kind of slow everything down, especially if you've had a really busy working life, to kind of reconnect and things like that. I think that's what kind of makes us whole, is being out here on the land and spending a lot more time out here. So I really hope off-grid life isn't a passing fad or a trend. I hope it is something that, people think about carefully and plan and, you know, um, enjoy it for what it is, for the basic living. I don't want to see people making these giant, glamping type, places where there's like a pool and like that, like a 6-bedroom house and all this kind of stuff, and then tearing down the forest. And I saw this ad online once, for a person who wanted the pine needles raked around their cottage and would pay somebody to do that, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? You need to spend more time in nature to understand that you're the one interloping on this land, not the pine tree. You don't need to rake up the pine needles. I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. So I don't know. I just really hope that people learn to connect a bit more with the land and enjoy it, and do spend more time off grid. I hope it's really not a passing fad. I think it's really important for us as a society, especially after all we've been through in the last 2 years, to reconnect and to really be at peace with Mother Earth. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you think that, the off-grid lifestyle, van lifing it, sort of living off the land, do you think that's something that a lot of people are doing as a passing fad? Or do you think this is something that people will really stick to it now they've kind of, seen the light after 2 years, in this really unusual, strange times like this pandemic that we're having now? Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and we'll talk to you in the next video. Take care.